Today's topic is really beautiful, and it's titled Values of Christ, and this will be part 1. I'm going to talk about the values that Christ demonstrated for us and directed us to adopt those values in our life, in our daily expression. This talk is taken from Teachings of Christ, Volume 1, Chapter 8. And in this chapter are presented 10 values, but I will only take up 4 and mention the 5th one to continue that next time. So we'll talk about the values, and the values, let me just mention all 5 to start out with. The first one is going to be fatherhood of God, brotherhood of humanity. The second one will be goodwill. Third one, he taught us, is harmlessness. Fourth one is forgiveness. And then watchfulness. Now, this is something that I'd like us all to remember so we can put these teachings into context. When we celebrate the life and teachings of any great ones in any tradition, we rekindle in our souls the spiritual essence of what that great one said and how that great one demonstrated in their life. Our daily physical, emotional, and mental lives are usually not very focused in our soul direction. Not usually, because our daily life is busy trying to go through life. For that reason, celebrations, spiritual services, holy days, saint days are all important because they redirect our life. They redirect our life to the immortality in us, the true essence in us. This is why it's really good to participate in celebrations of any kind. Sacred days, days of great ones, the name days, for example. What these celebrations do, this is so interesting, and I'd like you to take this idea and meditate on it for the next week or so. What these celebrations do is they knit together in us. Okay, remember that. They knit together in us the beauty and values of the Great One. For example, Christmas and Easter are times that we remember, we talk about. There are good memories that we always bring up and talk about. We sing about. There is a spiritually profound guidance given during those holy celebrations. We immerse ourselves in these ideas, and as we do, we start to build an energetic tapestry of these ideas. These are not just words from great ones. They are energy patterns. This energetic tapestry of values and ideas eventually becomes stronger and stronger and take root in our emotions. So first we hear it with our physical ears. We read it with our eyes, but slowly they start taking root in our emotions. Slowly they begin to change the way we live in our physical life. Think of the values and ideals of the teachings as currents or threads of light coming together in our life, and they create a pattern. So when we are exemplifying discipleship, what it means to be an honorable person, a good person, think of the tapestry of ideas that goes through you every time you exemplify that. It's not just one thing. It's a whole body that goes out. And this pattern then is impressed in our life, in the life of our family, community, and so on. This pattern is kept strong and vibrant and expansive as we learn to live by these ideas and values. As long as we put them into practice, they get stronger in us. Then our life improves and changes and advances. Takes on deeper meaning. Deeper joy comes into us. We are able to heal from past traumas. We create more resilience and depth in our life. I've seen this happen. So as spiritually dedicated people, we realize that we need to live by these values if we want a better life. So we read in the teaching that spiritual guidance is meant to improve our life, physically, emotionally, mentally, not just think of living in heaven somewhere. And through that livingness, we allow the human soul to emerge. Human soul emerges through our livingness in these values. And as this takes place, this is really important to remember. In case you wonder, why are we doing this? Why are you dedicating your time and your effort and your resources to study these teachings and be present here? Well, they create in us a happy life, a healthy life, creative and successful life. But one of the most important things that I've discovered is it makes us resilient when we face difficulties, challenges in our life. These patterns help us become resilient because we have a real foundation that will carry us, and that foundation is our soul. As our soul emerges, we will be able to overcome. It creates also a spiritual community on the physical as well as the spiritual life. So as we practice, we create a spiritual community here, but what about in our communication to the higher worlds? Doesn't that also create a spiritual community that links us to the great thoughts and patterns in the world? So think of inspiration, uplifting, transformational patterns that are created by all great people in all fields. Why do we go to museums? Why do we go to concerts? Why do we look at beautiful paintings? Why do we search for sculptures that we love? What about outstanding designs that we love? Outstanding patterns, music. Thousands of years later, we still look and marvel at the buildings and sculptures that were created. These examples create a psychic pattern in us. That's why human beings are always drawn to beauty of any kind, whether it's music or it's a building, it's a painting, it's a sculpture. And just to remember that, remember the last time you either heard or saw visually something so beautiful. Just remember it now for a second and see how an entire picture comes into your mind. Does it do that? Yes. Why? Because that beauty that you experienced created a pattern in you that you can rely on anytime. Remember the time you went to a concert and the music was so beautiful and moving that anytime you remember it, you go, ah. Have you been to a museum and saw some of the beautiful master paintings and you can remember it right now? Because there's a pattern created in us. And these examples are so important because we create a pattern by actually involving ourselves in them. It's not enough just to have books of paintings, books of sculptures. We have to experience it with our emotions, with our mind. We have to stand back and look. We have to listen and say, wow, look at that. Let's look at that first quote in your handout. This is so important because it brings us to the point that we have to do something in order to build that psychic pattern. He says, at least you are going to make an endeavor, an effort to actually assimilate into your system the values He, Christ, presented to humanity. That is how great ideals come into being. So get inspired. Wherever you need inspiration, whether it's a beautiful garden, the desert, a building, a music, a song, strive and make an effort because that is going to help you build a pattern in you that is going to make you resilient. In times of strain and stress, of negativity and pain, you can depend on that memory. And we shouldn't just build toxic memories of our subconscious. That gets built by itself. We don't need to even work on it, right? But the soul patterns are something we have to work on. We have to make an effort. Next paragraph, this is a very interesting idea. Christ presented a pattern. I love this when I read it. I thought, that is so true. when we hear the phrase, knock and it shall be open, all of a sudden a new pattern comes out, doesn't it? You see how it is? It's like, boom, a whole picture comes out. Suppose he is a great designer and he designed something, a glorious life, a beautiful life, and he gave us a pattern, a blueprint, and told us to take that pattern as an example for our life. Isn't that beautiful? If we will do that, eventually we will live. As we live, we become the embodiments of that pattern that he drew for us, that he presented to us. That is what striving is. So when we say, that woman is so beautiful, that man is so together, it's not just one thing we're pointing out. It's their whole being, isn't it? Their whole presence, their whole face, body, gestures, the way they talk, the way they don't talk. So it's an entire pattern that's made for us. I really got so impressed with this, I thought, wow, this is so beautiful. And in the back of your mind, just put in the back of your mind, what does it mean for us to be the threads in that pattern? How willing should we be to be the threads in the pattern that Christ presented to us? Ouch, 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 I don't want that, Lord. Or, yeah, take me and build a beautiful carpet out of me, a beautiful painting out of me, right? Isn't that beautiful? Let's go to the next quote. Striving is to sense that pattern, that he gave to humanity, and then to harmonize your deeds, your words, your thoughts, your actions and reactions and responses to that pattern. That is what striving is. There is no striving if there is no pattern in your mind. This is what I find when people say they're going to meditate and then they quit after 2 weeks, or they study and they quit after a month. What is lacking is not the willingness, there's no pattern. There is no a buy-in. Yes, I want to be able to do that. Then you do everything you can to do that. I want to be able to create that. Then you do everything to do that. So have that pattern, which is sometimes called a vision in your mind of what you want for your life. And that will start drawing out of you that striving. Let's read the next quote. What are you striving for? Make that clear. What are you striving for? If there is a pattern in your mind, then there's a vision, which is the pattern. If you know what you are striving to be, then you have a pattern. When you have a pattern, you have striving because the pattern urges you, challenges you to bring that pattern into manifestation in your life. So if you take one message with you today, see what is the pattern that you want for your life. Take it from anywhere, any discipline, and have that pattern in your heart and mind of the vision of what you want to be. And then strive toward it. Wishing, hoping, doesn't create something. It's striving, actually doing. Why is that? Because it involves the mind, the emotions, and the body. Just wishing and hoping is desiring. Aspiring is just emotional. But if we put that fire into the other bodies and get going, then something happens. Now here's another quote. This pattern is built of thousands of threads. But Torkom says, I'm going to only mention 10 threads, and of course today we'll just do 4, maybe 5, of that pattern, and how he wove this pattern with these different colors, and this is just the beginning. Okay, so when we talk about the great teachings, now we're going to change our mind and think of them as threads that we can weave into our life if that's what we want. You can choose. You can say, I'm going to work with this thread this time, this thread. So what's the first one? The first thread was the idea of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Can you beat that value? Impossible. It is a value that is the foundation for survival, the foundation for peace, prosperity, happiness, and health. Imagine how many millions of people died, billions of people died, because of not accepting the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of humanity. I thought, okay, all right, let me bring this home. Can I look at someone in the shopping mall when I'm driving and think of this? Can I look at an immigrant, a person of a different color, different race, maybe dressed well or not dressed well? I don't know. Can I immediately remember this? If I don't have that tapestry built into me. Right? Can I look at myself and say, I am a child of God? Take it easy, Gita. Treat yourself better. Right? So this is a big human, pan-human, global idea that all nations, all religions, all colors, all genders, all everything. Not only that, but we're finding that if we're not friends with the soil itself, with the plants itself, with the animals itself, we can't survive either, so the tapestry gets bigger. So even the dirt on the ground is part of God. It's created by that one creator. So it is impossible for us to abuse and be cynical when we think that we are all the same family. And I am too. That's so profound. So the next time you feel down on yourself, or you catch yourself thinking a little thread that is not exactly kind when you're driving, when you're thinking, I get that, don't you? I mean, that little, comes into your mind and instantly you think of something not so kind. But if we can bring that pattern and build that pattern in us so that we can look at everyone with the eyes of Christ, with the eyes of God. I don't think God sits on a throne and says, these people are black, so therefore they're going to be slaves. These people are white, they're going to be the owners. These people with long hair are going to be hippies, and these people with the crew cuts are better. I don't think a great one does that. So as silly as that sounds, we do engage in that as a humanity. So this is important for spiritual disciples to start weaving that pattern in us. So we look with eyes of beauty at each other and at ourselves. And this is going to also mean something else, at your past. Okay? At your past. And all the people in our past. We'll get to that. Okay, let's look at the second value that's on your handout. The second value that he brought and really emphasized through his driving lectures and talks was goodwill among men and women. Goodwill means that you always wish good for that person. Always. Whenever you are talking, whenever you are thinking, whenever you are doing something, you have that motivation behind your actions that you are doing everything for the good of other people. Who are the other people? They are your brothers. Look how the first and second threads are tied together. Does this also apply to people in our past who have hurt us? Yes. I know. This is such an important chapter. I hope you read the whole thing. It is so important, so profound. How do we create goodwill? First, we see we are good in our essence ourselves. It starts with us. If we don't have self-confidence and self-love and self-trust, how can we do the same for others? Starts with us. Own that goodness. Own it in you. I am good. Can you say that? I am good. I am loving. I am caring. Of course you are. So we are going to own it. And as we see ourselves, we will see others. When I am most critical of others, if I just close my eyes and look at myself, I'm criticizing myself. And you just want to squish, squish like a bug. It doesn't stop. And that's so toxic. So as we see ourselves, we see others. And when we act out, against whom are we acting out? Ourselves. Thank you. So what are we doing in our life as spiritual disciples? We are constantly upholding ourselves and bashing ourselves, raising ourselves and lowering ourselves. Wow, no wonder our solar angel gets confused. What do you want already? Right? What do you want? Tell me. That's what I'm hearing. What do you want? So we are going to have goodwill. If there is someone in your life you need to send goodwill to, close your eyes right now. Anyone, here or in the higher worlds, close your eyes and send that person goodwill. They can use it wherever they are. Send it again. Take a deep breath. And remember this moment. Try to practice sending goodwill, especially when some painful memory is stirred in you. Just take a minute, go sit down somewhere, listen to some beautiful music, look at the trees swaying in the wind, whatever it is that inspires you with that pattern, okay? That's why human beings need beauty around them at all times, right? Any kind of beauty, so that you can always look and say, I'm sending goodwill. Beautiful. Let's go to the third thread. Aren't these beautiful? Aren't they so practical too? Yeah. Third thread is harmlessness. Christ said something so beautiful 2,000 years ago. He presented a great value when he said, not only don't kill people, thou shalt not kill. That's in the 10 Commandments. But also if you hurt any man or woman or person with your words, you will be taken to court in heaven. Because why? Our physical, emotional, mental words, thoughts, suggestions form what? Threads. And those threads create a pattern. What pattern do we want to create? The toxic kind or the beautiful kind that everybody will love? And remember, here's a thought that all of you who've studied these teachings already know, that these patterns create our subtle bodies. And our subtle bodies, when they're beautiful, they can be used by other great beings to inspire us, to inspire humanity. We are told that when Buddha is going to leave this planet, what will he do? He will leave his vehicles for Christ to use. Those are patterns. There may be runes, maybe they're an image that immediately that psychic energy comes from it, and the Christ will say, yep, that's what I'm going to do. So we are going to do the same thing. We are going to leave behind those beautifully woven, harmless patterns. Harmlessness to me means not to hurt, not to offend, not to take the rights of others. The value of others, don't take that away from them. Do not demean and belittle and violate others, even in a second thought. This is a standard for us. He writes on page 145 that you can look later. I don't think I included that in the quotes. Harmlessness is reverent. Harmlessness is reverent. It is reverence, the respect of the divinity within you and in others. I love that. Harmlessness is reverence, respect, the love of the origin in all life, all creation. So far we have the fatherhood of God and brotherhood of humans. We have practiced goodwill, and we practice harmlessness. So these three, we can see they're building a pattern in us, and we are already, as we do that, clear out karma. See, because instead of karmic patterns, we're building a higher pattern, a higher psychic patterns in us. Let's go to the fourth value. This is a long quote. I'm going to read it, and if you like, you may read it with me. Would you like that? Let's read it together. The fourth value that Christ gave us is forgiveness. Disciples came and said, "Shall we forgive each other?" How many times? Is 7 times enough? No, Christ said, 77 times is not enough. Then are you going to forgive people? If you are sensitive, if you can really mentally analyze your life, you will see that any time you are not forgiving, you are building a tremendous tension and burden in your brain, in your heart, in your blood, and your blood pressure is rising. Revenge is another poison. The heart attacks that you are developing come from unforgiveness. What does unforgiveness do? It really kills you. You do not need that burden, that tension, that strain in your nervous system, right? Shall we go on? Okay. Forgiveness gives us a chance and challenges the other person to strive to a better life. Look at that for a second. When we forgive someone, we're releasing them from being psychically connected to our toxic thoughts. We release them. Let them figure it out. We don't have to hold them prisoner. Okay, I really understood this. Forgiveness means that you already know that no man is bad. The divinity in the man did not do anything wrong. Let's read together. Because he was sick physically, emotionally, or mentally, he did wrong things. And you are fighting against the elementals, punishing that man who did not do anything. He was sick. When you cure him, forgiveness gives you the chance to take this man and put him into an educational process. Forgiveness makes you realize that these crimes are increasing because of wrong conditions in life. Isn't that beautiful? I hope you read that many times and really ponder on it. If there is someone you need to forgive at this time, don't keep feeding it. Think of that person. Let's close your eyes right now. There's someone you need to forgive, whether it's in the past or way past in your childhood or right now. Or if it could be something, a political figure, whatever. Okay, close your eyes and say to that person in your heart whatever you want to say to forgive them. Good. Why is it difficult to forgive? Why? There is a pattern that has developed in us over a long period of time. We feel hurt, betrayed, wronged, disrespected, not loved, and so on. That's a pattern in us. And these are powerful needs that we have. We want to be loved, we want to be respected, we want to be nurtured and cared for, especially when we're little. When we are not, our very humanity is wounded. Rightfully so, it is wounded. And this wound deepens and deepens in times and gives us an identity. And we keep feeding it, remembering it, and it is a wound in us that prevents us from going past that hurt. And we grow it by attaching to it similar experiences, and it takes over our life and sneaks out at different times. We need to find these patterns and remove them by one act of forgiveness. There are so many forgiveness exercises that are especially in the book Other Worlds. Very important. So think when you are not forgiving that you are feeding that pattern in you that has created so much pain. Okay? So you're going to dismantle that. I'm just going to mention the fifth one, and then we will close and do a beautiful meditation. Are you ready? You're ready to read with me the next thread. Do you have the page? Okay, the next thread, the fifth one, is watchfulness. Christ said to be watchful. What does this mean? Watchfulness means intense observation of your actions, speeches, thoughts, emotions, relationships, the actions of others, their voices, their intentions, their motives. You are awake. I'll leave that for us to think about until next time. Think of that paragraph. We'll start with that next. Let us close our eyes and finish the lecture part of this with a big Om, and then we will do our visualization. Let's do another Om and release any pattern that you want to release today. One more time, one more release. Beautiful.